What's up, everybody? It's Dana, and I'm back, fresh off of our very successful Las Vegas Getaway trip that I had surprised Caitlin with over Christmas. And we did that this week, the week of her birthday. It was a great getaway. We went away to Las Vegas for a total of 3 days, 2 nights, 3 days. We stayed at the Luxor. I got comped a 1-bedroom suite, and it was Caitlin's first time ever going to Las Vegas. And I thought originally I was going to do like a daily vlog. I thought that would be a good idea for a video to kind of vlog our daily experience in Vegas. And then I thought back on it. I have some footage and stuff like that, but I decided to separate some of the slot videos that we did into individual slot videos. And I thought instead of doing like a daily vlog, I would do a big review of the trip, to be a bit more informative for anyone that might be looking to do a trip like this in the future. This is this was like my third time going to Vegas. It was Caitlin's first. So I had already been to Vegas before and knew some of the do's and don'ts, but I thought I would kind of take everything I've learned over these past 3 trips, summarize them into this video, talk about the things that we did. I'm actually going to give you guys some tips and then show you how we applied those tips to our trip. To have what Caitlin called the greatest trip of her life. So, without further ado, why don't we get to that? So, our trip was in April of 2023, and here are some tips for a successful trip. The pictures I took, and here's some of the beautiful Wynn Buffet. It's all about planning and budgeting, okay? If you have a budget and you're willing to stick to it, and you plan out the activities you're going to do, it is completely reasonable to think that you can do a Las Vegas trip at a low cost. Now, a lot of people might think, well, it's just too expensive to get away for a few days. I have to worry about my child or my children. I have to worry about how I'm going to afford to buy plane tickets to get there. I have to worry about how to afford the hotel and the food while we're there. Plus, if I'm gambling, I'm afraid I'm going to be broke. So let me tell you, from my personal experience, first off, me and Caitlin, we are not very wealthy people. In fact, you may even call us poor. So, we're not like extremely wealthy, but a lot of planning went into this trip. A lot of planning has gone into my previous trips. And I can tell you for sure, my last 2 Vegas trips I went on with my brother were not as successful, were not as fun as this one was. A, because I went with the love of my life, but B, because this time I was a lot more prepared and planned ahead and budgeted. We stuck to the budget. There was no stress in this trip at all. I wasn't stressed about, oh my God, we're going to run out of money. I wasn't stressed about Caitlin's not going to enjoy the stuff we're doing. Everything we did was stuff that Caitlin wanted to do. Everything we did was within what we budgeted. So there was never any stress about we're going to lose money, blah, blah, blah. And then to top all that off, we actually ended up profiting on the gambling we did on slot machines and table games. So overall, it was a really good, fun trip for us. We did a lot of things, a lot of walking around, sightseeing. So we're going to kind of go over that stuff in the trip, show you what you should budget for, some ideas of budgeting, and how we applied those things. So plan your budget. Some things you want to consider when you're budgeting. How long are you going for? This is Las Vegas specific. And as I said, this is my personal 3rd time going. The first time I went to Las Vegas, I went for an entire week, and I will never do that again. It was just overload. After like the 3rd day, I was like, I had Vegas exhaustion. I was ready to go home after the day 3. And then, by the end of it, I was almost completely broke. The second time I went with my brother, we stayed for 3 nights, which was much better than going for a full week. However, I thought maybe even 3 nights, if you're not properly budgeted for it, could be a little bit too much. So when me and my wife booked this one, 2 nights, 3 days, it was right on point. 2 to 3 nights, I would suggest, especially if you've never been, 2 to 3 nights is the perfect range of time you should budget for and consider. Any longer than that, you're going to get burnout. Trust me. So you want to think about the hotel and resort costs. In this trip, that didn't factor in for me because from my previous trips, MGM Resorts comped me the room, plus gave us a resort credit that we could use for food and show tickets, as well as some free slot play, which I'm going to talk about that stuff later in the video because I'm also going to show you what it cost us versus what it would have cost someone that didn't have those things. Say you're a first timer. You want to think about your daily food budget, how much you're going to spend on food, your airline and transportation expenses. So you have to think about how you're going to get to the airport. Luckily, we had a family member that drove us to and from the airport when we were in Boston. And then once we got to Vegas, we took lifts and the bus, the Deuce, which goes up and down the strip 24/7. It's cheap. It's great. So I'll talk about that stuff as well. You want to think about your spending money and the entertainment activities that you'll spend money on. You want to think about the gambling bankroll. You want to keep that separate from your spending money. You don't want any money you gamble with to be something that you were planning on using for something else. Okay? That's when you run into big problems. That's where a lot of like people with gambling problems run into problems. But you want to have good discipline and separate your gambling bankroll from your other money. So you don't want to be, if you are budgeting $100 a day for slot machines, that's all you should do. Don't use that $100 for anything else, and don't use your spending money or your airline money or your transportation money or your food money for slots. Whatever you say is your budget for those things, once it's gone, it's gone. Don't try to steal from one area of your budget to apply it to another. Otherwise, you're going to cause yourself a lot of stress. So that was a big key in the success of this trip for us. We never overextended ourselves. There was never any worry about running out of money. And we had a very low budget, comparatively speaking, for 2 people to go to Las Vegas. And I'll talk about what the total trip cost us, which is going to blow your mind. But even what it would have cost us if we didn't have some of the comps we had, it still wasn't that bad. In fact, it was still under the initial budget I planned for. So, our trip was 3 days and 2 nights at the Luxor. Our hotel stay was comped, so we got it for free. They waived our resort fee. We also got $250 in food and resort credit, which we obviously used, and $150 in free slot play, which we used the first day we were there. The airline we flew on was Delta. We flew the main cabin, and my initial budget was $2,000. That was what I planned to spend on this trip before we did it, when I was planning it. Before we even went, I was planning on airfare, transportation, food, everything. I was planning on spending $2,000. So let's talk about the budget breakdown. So when I was planning my trip, and this is something you should do, you want to plan on how much you think you should spend on each item of your trip. So when I was planning my trip, this is how I configured it. I figured the airline tickets based on my previous trips were going to be about $1,000, roughly $500 for each of us. I knew I was getting the Luxor 1-bedroom suite for 2 nights comped, and they were going to waive the resort fee. I actually could have stayed 2 extra nights for free, but I already knew from experience that would be way too much for us. Also, I had to take into consideration that my sister and my brother-in-law were watching our 3 boys for us, so I obviously wasn't going to have them have the responsibility of watching our kids for more than like 3 days. Well, they watched them for a total of 4 days because we dropped them off the night before we left. I had a $250 food budget. That was in addition to the $250 resort credit. So I was planning on spending a total of $500 on food, $250 which would have been comped from MGM, and $250 actual food money that I was going to bring. I planned on spending about $100 on ground transportation. That was lift rides and RTC bus fare. I can tell you that the lifts are not that expensive in Vegas, but I always budget $100 just to be on the safe side, even when it's just me going. I budgeted a $250 spending money budget. That was like in case anything came up. I knew that we might be stopping at convenience stores. I can tell you if you ever want to drink alcohol, it's a lot cheaper to get your free drinks while you're gambling, but also instead of going to the bars and spending $30 on one of those big tall things, you can walk around the city with a beer in your hand. You can walk into like a CVS and buy a 40-ounce beer. So it's a lot cheaper to do that stuff if you're a drinker. But also like any food, water, any sort of entertainment you might want to do, we budgeted $250 for that. And then for a gambling budget, I figured about $400. $100 for the first day, which was like a partial day. We got to Vegas at about 12 p.m. And I figured $100 plus the $150 free slot play that they gave to us would be plenty for me and Caitlin to play with the first day. And then the second day I budgeted $300 for me and Caitlin to share for day 2. And then day 3 we were going home, so I wasn't worried about gambling that third day. So what did we actually spend? I want to break down how I applied this budget to what we did. So each day, what we spent on everything. And so first on Monday. Caitlin knew for sure she wanted to go to the Wynn Buffet. That's like the one thing she definitely wanted to do the whole time since I told her about the trip, since I surprised her on Christmas. She knew she wanted to check out the Wynn Buffet. It's really expensive. Obviously, I had a budget for that. So the morning that we left, we got to the airport a little bit before 6 in the morning. I knew we had to have breakfast, but I knew we weren't going to eat again until the buffet because we wanted to get our money's worth. So I paid $35 for breakfast at Logan Airport. And then at the buffet, when we were at the airport, I paid online $143 for the buffet. Plus, when we were there, I paid $25 tip. I did research what people tipped at the buffet, at this particular buffet, because I wasn't quite sure. And on the Vegas Reddit, just about everyone said $5, which as someone that spent years in the service industry, I was appalled, especially at the cost of the buffet, that people thought $5 was an appropriate tip. Maybe it is, I don't know, because the servers they're not giving you the food, they're bringing you drinks. But I felt our server was fantastic. We never had to ask for a drink. She always, we each ordered a soda and a water, and each time, our drinks were getting low, without even asking, she brought us our drinks back out, refreshed our drinks without even having to ask. She was really good, really friendly. I tipped her $25. So the first day, that was what I spent. $35 at the airport, plus $168 on the Wynn Buffet. Then for food on Tuesday, we had the Excalibur Brunch Buffet for our breakfast/lunch, which was $58, which we used some of our resort credit for. Plus, I tipped $10 to our server. And then we ate dinner at the Tap Sports Bar and Grill at Excalibur. And that was $85, and I left a $20 tip. I will say, if you eat at Tap, go to the one at MGM Grand. I've now eaten at the Tap Sports Bar at MGM Grand and the Tap Sports Bar at Excalibur. And I much preferred this Tap Sports Bar in MGM. They have a full menu. It's only across the street from Excalibur. It's a short 10-minute walk. If you go over the bridge and across the other bridge, you're in MGM. It takes 10 minutes to walk there from Excalibur. But we had already sat down. I wasn't just going to abandon the restaurant when I realized it wasn't a full menu at this particular one. And our waitress was very good. So even though I didn't get to get exactly what I wanted for dinner, it was still a decent meal. We had an appetizer. I had a burger. Caitlin had a chicken sandwich, a couple alcoholic beverages, a couple sodas. It was overall a good meal. So, like I said, that $85 was out of our comps. And then on Wednesday, we had the Excalibur buffet again before we left for the airport. I had $33 in resort credit remaining, which was used. Plus, I had to pay $25 and a $10 cash tip. So that was our food breakdown. For our transportation. Now, remember from the beginning, I said I was budgeting $1,000 for airfare. Now, originally, I booked tickets through United Airlines, which I didn't really want to do because they weren't direct. I prefer to fly nonstop. And Delta is usually who I fly with because they're the only airline that I know of out of Boston that flies an early morning nonstop flight to Vegas out of Logan Airport. However, at the time I checked, the United tickets were about $1,000, $500 for each of us. It was like $1,063 total for the two of us, and the Delta flight that I usually would normally take to Vegas was at like $1,200, $200 more. So I initially booked the United flight, but I did keep my eye on the Delta flight every day. And ironically enough, the day that we got our tax refund in February, I checked the Delta flight for the day we were leaving, and it was down to $332 a person. So $664 total. I snap booked it immediately and canceled my United flight. So I have a future credit with United. So I ended up booking through Delta for $332 for each of us, and we were in the first row of the main cabin, and we had 2 seats on the exit row. We didn't have to sit with anybody. It was great. So we were the first row behind Comfort Plus. We got great service, and we didn't have the headache of having to sit next to some random person on the flight too. And the flight coming back was pretty empty. It was pretty good. surprisingly, because the first flight was full. So it was $662 for the airfare. And then for the bus passes, it was $8 a piece. So $16 on the bus passes. And then we took 3 lift rides, one from the airport to the Luxor Casino Resort. So that was $12, plus I tipped $5 to the driver. Then that night when we went to the Wynn, I was a little afraid we were going to miss our reservation. So rather than take the bus, I will say there's a bunch of road work going on the Strip. So the buses were delayed by like a half hour to an hour. And I was afraid we were going to miss our reservation. So I booked a Lyft. He took all the back roads, got us there fairly quickly. So that was $11.99, and I tipped that driver $4. And then on the way back to the airport on Wednesday, the Lyft ride was $14.99, and I tipped him $5. So that was our transportation. As far as our entertainment, the one thing other than the Wynn buffet that Caitlin really wanted to do was she is obsessed with the Titanic, and the Luxor, coincidentally enough, has one of the world's largest Titanic artifact exhibits. So that was what we did for our entertainment on Tuesday, which was the second day. Other than gambling, this was our main entertainment activity. Went to the Titanic exhibit. We spent about an hour and a half there. I took literally probably 150 pictures, which I'm not going to bore you with. Here's some highlights on the screen. That cost $37 a piece, and that was also, we were able to use our resort credit for that, so I didn't have to pay any money out of pocket for that. Once again, later at the end of the video, I will talk about if someone that didn't have these comps, how much this all would cost them. So that was a pretty cool exhibit. Cool to see some real things that were on the Titanic that were preserved and now able to be seen. Some recreations of things that were on the Titanic. It was pretty cool. Caitlin was definitely very happy with this. As I said, she is quite enthralled in the history of the Titanic. Assorted money. We didn't really spend that much money on things other than the entertainment and gambling. On Monday, I bought us some drinks at the mini market stores, which were in the hotel. You're always going to pay a little bit more money in those resorts. So I spent $12. On Tuesday, I had a headache, so I got some Advil and got a couple more drinks from me and Caitlin and spent $22. So we spent $34 on assorted spending money when we were initially planning on spending $200. It all depends on what you're going to do and how you're going to spend it. So let's talk about the big thing. What does everyone go to Vegas for other than the food and the entertainment? They go for the gambling, obviously, right? As with everything, you have to have a budget and you have to stick to it. So that's what we did. We planned and we stuck to our budget. And in the end, we ended up ahead, which is, you can't go in thinking you're going to be ahead. You got to go in planning you're going to lose that budget. So you want a budget per day. I'm not going to spend more than X amount per day, and that's exactly what we did. It gave us a stress-free trip. So on Monday, we used $40 cash right off the bat. After we checked in, got settled in the room, we went down to check out the casino floor before dinner. We spent $40 in cash. And plus, we had the $150 in free play that came from the Luxor. So we spread all that out between a few different machines. And in the end, we cashed out for $90, which was an overall $50 profit. Then while we were waiting for dinner, we got to the Wynn Casino about 25 minutes before our reservation. So we had some time to kill. We each put $20 in the machine. We didn't win anything. We lost. So that was that. We weren't going to spend any more at the Wynn. After dinner, we just went back to the hotel, walked around a bit, went back to our room and had some Dana and Caitlin time. And then on Tuesday, we woke up pretty early in the morning because our clocks were all off from the East Coast to West Coast time difference. So we woke up at 4 in the morning. So we walked around the Strip and we went into the New York Casino. And we played a few different machines, and me and Caitlin each had some really good bonuses. One video I already put up of the Gold, which is one of my favorite machines in Vegas because it's cheap. The minimum bet is 30 cents. I was playing a 60-cent bet, and I put $20 in that machine, and I cashed it out for $170. Yeah, it was a great machine. It's a great machine. It's fun. The bonus is exciting when you get the bonus, and you can put $20 in that machine and play for an hour plus if you go on a good run. And then Caitlin played one of her favorite games, which I'm going to do a video on probably next week. I'm going to upload that one of her getting her big bonus. She was also doing like a minimum bet and had a really exciting bonus where she won 50 times, plus more than 50 times her bet. And it was like the triple feature bonus, so even better. So we had a good time on the slots, especially on Tuesday. So at New York, between the two of us, we profited $180. Then we walked over to the Tropicana Casino, which is like my brother's favorite casino, and we put $60 into the slots there. Yeah, we cashed out for $11 total, so we lost $49. We each put $40 on the $5 blackjack table. Caitlin had never played before, so it was her first time ever playing, and we had the table to ourselves. And then, ironically enough, about 20 minutes in, another guy sat down, and he turned out to be from the Boston area too. So we chit-chatted with him for a while. That was pretty cool. And that guy only bought in for 20. And we all played for probably close to an hour off of, like, you know, me and Caitlin each put in 40 and that guy put in 20. In the end, I profited $10 and Caitlin profited 20. So we had a total profit of $30. We went back, we had breakfast at the buffet, and then we went downtown. We took the bus downtown. We checked out Golden Nugget Casino. I put $100 cash on blackjack there. Ended up cashing out for $35, so that was a $65 loss. Then we walked around downtown. We stopped at Plaza Casino. We were hoping to see the Brian Christopher slots area. Unfortunately, that was closed. So we just put our money into couple different slots, and we cashed out for $10. That was a $30 loss. Did play some blackjack at the Plaza Casino as well, and I cashed out with a $25 profit there. Then after dinner at the Tap Sports Bar, we played some slots at Excalibur, cashed out for $31, which was a $29 loss. I did play craps at Excalibur as well. I put down $60 there and cashed out for $100, so that was a $40 profit, so the crap session was good. And then that was pretty much it for gambling, except when we got to the airport, we had about, Vegas, the Harry Reid International Airport was telling everyone, because they were only operating one tram line, which to get out of the airport, you have to take the tram to the checked baggage and pickup area. And when you get into the airport, you have to take the tram to the gate. And they were only operating one of the two tram lines, so they were telling everyone to arrive about 2 to 3 hours early. We arrived like 3.5 hours early. So we had some time to fill. We played some of the slots in the terminal, and we put $40 into 2 different machines. We cashed out for a total of $75, which was a $35 profit. It was a really good trip. So what did we actually spend on this trip? So for the airlines, I spent $664 on the plane tickets. For the ground transportation, the bus, the lifts, I spent a total of $68.98. On food, I spent, out of pocket, I spent $268. Plus we used $176 of our $250 resort credit on food. We didn't have to pay for the hotel, didn't have to pay any resort fees. That was all waived. Our activities, we spent $34 on the convenience store, and then $74 of the resort credit we spent on the Titanic exhibit. And then for gambling overall, we won $147 profit. So the total cost of our trip out of my pocket expenses was $887.98 for a 3-day getaway for two people with flight and our food and our gambling. It cost less than $900 when I was planning on budgeting $2,000. So you might think, okay, that's all great, Dana, but you guys actually won on some slots. You had a free room, you had some free food and a free tickets to a show or whatever you wanted to do. So it'd be way too expensive for me to go. Well, I guess if you think that $2,000 is too expensive, it might be a little bit tight for you for 2 people to go. It depends on how you plan it. You could go for less if you wanted to as well, but the key is, planning. And so I was planning on spending $2,000. I don't have just $2,000 to hand over and go away. I had to plan that for months in advance and save. And then ultimately what I ended up doing was combining some savings and some of my tax refund. So sometimes you get your tax refund and you have a little extra money, put that in the savings towards a trip. I will tell you that this was like one of the best things to happen to us because we definitely needed a getaway. We've been under a lot of stress with different things, and to have a trip as successful as this one, and I'm not even talking about like winning on slot machines or whatever. I'm talking about how much fun we had together. Just spending time with my wife and just enjoying each other's company, just the two of us, was just the best. And we needed it. So can't recommend trying to plan something like this for yourself. So let's look at what someone that didn't have the comps that we got, how much would they spend? Well, and let's assume the person's going to lose on that gambling. So they'd spend the $664 on the plane tickets for two people. They would have spent the $68.98 for the lifts and the bus tickets, and that's if they were going to tip as well as I was tipping. For food, without the comps, they would have spent $444. For the Luxor, I was able to just like plug in some random Mondays and Tuesdays on in like the next month, and without comps, you could still get like a nice room, a nice king bed room for $39 to $44 per person. So I budgeted the $44 a night plus the $35 a night resort credit. It would cost you $158 for 2 nights at the Luxor, and if you were to look at that, they even give you some food credit as a $30 food and beverage credit. Yeah, that's it's not going to pay for all your food, but it's gonna help defray that cost. But I didn't even work in that. I just assumed that person would have been spending the full $444 on food. The activities, tickets that we spent $37 a piece on, plus the convenience store stops, $108. And then let's just say they lost a $400 gambling budget. They would have spent a total of $1,842.98. So overall, we had a fantastic trip, and I hope this little trip review / tip review will help you in the future, help you plan your getaway, and know what to expect and how you can budget yourself to have a successful Vegas vacation. Until the next video, be on the lookout for that big bonus win that Caitlin had. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you like informational, educational, funny, entertainment, this is the place for you. We welcome all sorts here. You can find it all on this channel. Have a great week, everybody.